The Indianapolis Colts could find their quarterback competition for Anthony Richardson in this draft. There's buzz here in Indy. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com. And my partner in crime, Jake Arthur, is our credentialed boots on the ground, which honestly is even good for that this week as my boots are on the ground this week here. So
at least I upgraded to boots.
Yeah, that's true. I took Jake's job this week, so we're both your co-boots on the ground here at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. We got testing numbers coming in. We have vibes. We have feelings. It's a great week here.
Always vibes.
Yeah, always vibes. It's a great week here in Indy. So today, guys, we're going to talk about just kind of the latest hubbub, what we're hearing, everything that's going on, and here in Indy. And then we're also going to do some reactions to some testing numbers. As we're recording this, the cornerbacks have already done their test. We are seeing the safeties about to run their 40, so I'm sure we'll both scream when Eminwari just goes crazy with that one. But we're going to react to those tests there and also react to some defensive tackles and defensive linemen from last night. Mm-hmm. But first, Jake, let's talk about the biggest news and just kind of what we're hearing this week in Indy. And I think number one is the Colts have met with a couple quarterbacks this week, right?
Yeah, they sure have. So one of them kind of a polarizing prospect, Quinn Ewers.
You just mean Zach doesn't like him.
Polarizing. A lot of people do. I mean, the kid started out as a potential first rounder before the season, and now we're looking at I don't know, somewhere in the middle rounds. But,
right.
He did confirm that the Colts met with him, which
Formal meeting.
Yeah. They're going to do their due diligence, of course. Like, they probably need to add a quarterback in this draft. I think the wise money says if they really want to address it, they get some mid-level veteran free agent, and then draft someone who is not just kind of a throwaway draft pick as well. So Ewers has some, there's some validity to taking a guy like that. You don't want to take him in the first, obviously. But you build a nice little quarterback room like that around Anthony Richardson as well. And then you got some options at least.
Right. Like you could bring in Mac Jones in free agency and then also draft Mac Jones and Quinn Ewers and just have a whole room of Anthony Richardsons surrounded by Mac Jones.
I think we're done with the show already. Good night, everyone. This was fun.
But yeah, I do think the Colts could go quarterback in this draft for sure. Look, statistically speaking, going quarterback in the mid rounds is almost always a wasted investment. You're usually not going to get anything out of that. But honestly, you're usually not going to get anything out of investing anything in a quarterback because it's such a low hit rate at that position. But just to kind of show that you're serious about competition and bringing in outside faces and honestly running back a retread of a veteran quarterback, like I just mentioned, like, does a Mac Jones inspire anybody? No. But does a Quinn Ewers kind of inspire people because he's an unknown? Yeah.
He played with A.D. Mitchell.
All right.
There's some connection there. I don't know.
There you go, Jake, reaching at the straws there. But yeah, like I don't know. Quinn Ewers, I think, is more enticing than a player like a Mac Jones because you don't know what he is. And that's just the example here. Like getting a draft quarterback to be that backup or that quote unquote competition for Anthony Richardson might make more sense than the veteran free agent market because you can sell that as like an unknown or sell that as something different than just, hey, we're bringing in Mac Jones. Oh, he's competing with Anthony Richardson. Like, okay, competing for what? Yeah. One of the worst starters in football? Like, come on.
No, I've heard they are serious about the quarterback situation. It's been said on air on national stuff, just speaking with colleagues here, like everything seems like the Colts are going to be serious about adding more to the room. We don't know how much talent it is. We don't know if it's going to be people we like. Obviously, I don't think, Mac Jones or anyone is going to really move the meter. I don't think we're going to like that, but they're adding experience. I think if they do something like that and add someone from like the 4th or 5th round, I think we could all live with that.
I mean, we'd have to live with it because that might be what happens this offseason here.
There are no great solutions. This is not really a year for great solutions. So that's just going to have to be what we live with.
Yeah, and the other vibe we're kind of getting, and this kind of stays on track with the offense vibe with that quarterback position, is this might be an offensive draft for the Colts, not offensive draft. I mean, maybe to some of you guys it might be offensive.
Yeah.
We have seen offensive drafts, but this might be an offensive draft in terms of, they're looking at quarterbacks. They've talked to a lot of running backs this week. We all kind of think they might go tight end in round 1. I think that's the easy money right there. And then with O-line and flux this offseason, they might be drafting some offensive linemen too. So I know we wanted to talk about them talking to running backs, Jake, but just in general, say the Colts go very heavy veteran defense and free agency, this could be a very offensive draft.
Yeah, I think they have more time to be patient with like draft picks on the offensive side of the ball. There's a little more there.
Yeah.
On defense, they need quick fixes. They need guys who can play for Lou Anarumo now, and then bring in some longer developing players along with that. But the cupboard is more bare defensively. They need help more immediately on that side of the ball. And I think that's what we could probably see through free agency and the draft.
Yeah, I mean, and again, they've talked to a couple of running backs this week. I mean, we've got confirmations from Ollie Gordon, Genty as well.
Yeah, Drake Wally talked to a few guys today too that also talked to the Colts. Those are more day 3 guys, but they've been kicking the tires literally from the top of the mountain at Ashton Genty all the way through to the 7th round guys. So they're right. I think they're going to be intentional about adding to the running back room in the draft.
Right. Sure. And just to clarify, I mean, teams talk to most players here at the combine, but I think it is worthwhile just to make note that they are making an effort to talk to a lot of these running backs here.
For sure.
And another things we heard, going away from the draft, I know we all want to talk about the draft right now, but just a little bit of buzz on some Colts upcoming free agents. I think we've all kind of felt this, but Julian Blackmon, I think it's very, very unlikely that he will be back with the team. And again, you don't need some insider knowledge to know that. It just from the vibes we're getting here, though, I'd be very, very shocked if Julian Blackmon were back this offseason.
Yeah, it just again those are conclusions we could have drawn like right after it, really throughout the season.
Right.
But they lowballed him last year, and I mean he didn't have a lot out there, so he came back. Wasn't really thrilled with the deal that he signed. Suffered that labrum injury early in the season that he had to play through the whole season, and he didn't look like himself. And he had to be the one out there playing because the Colts didn't do anything else at the position. So in a contract year, he played the worst season of his career, was injured. It just doesn't seem logical that the marriage continues. You know what I mean? I think it's probably best for both sides to part ways.
Yeah. And then another upcoming free agent that we don't think the Colts are going to bring back, but they might be a little more inclined to try and bring him back. And that is Dayo Odeyingbo.
Yeah.
I'd be very shocked if he's brought back to the Colts from everything I've heard this week.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily because the Colts aren't going to try. I do think they're going to reach out, but the vibe I'm getting is that Dayo probably wants to go elsewhere. And I don't think the Colts are going to be willing to pay as much as he's going to get. I don't think it's going to be like a crazy, crazy amount, but I do think Colts fans are going to be a little shocked when they see it maybe hit the double digits, like the 10, 11, 12 million per year.
Yeah.
I do think it could get up to that. And I don't know if the Colts are going to be that competitive. And bringing back a part-time player who was on and off with his production here, he probably wants a fresh start too. So I just don't see him coming back to Indy.
Yeah. I think the issue there is just going to be that they're going to get probably priced out. There's going to be competition for him. There are other teams that I think probably have him pretty high up on their free agency big boards. And again, the Colts don't win bidding wars. I mean, maybe sometimes for their own players, but we have Dayo Odeyingbo at home and Samson Ebukam, the 30-year-old coming off the Achilles. When it comes to the Colts getting in bidding wars and having competition for free agents, it doesn't usually wind up with them being on the winning end.
Yeah, so we'll see if they can replace that production that Dayo's given them the last 2 years, but I'd be very shocked if Odeyingbo is back in Indy next season. But coming up, guys, we are going to transition more to talking prospects. We're going to talk about this NFL Combine. We're going to react to last night's testing numbers and react to kind of the numbers we've seen today and what's going on right in front of us.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on all that action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. Plus, if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine all those bets into a same game parlay. I personally love using FanDuel's live betting feature because if you're watching a boring game, you can just kind of conjure up a little bit of a bet, something that you can find on there, and it makes things more interesting. Plus, it's easy to use, and when you win, you get your money right away. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Zach. So typically, guys that we have circled coming into the combine, we try not to waste our time on guys that who on tape it doesn't really appear they're going to work out, or they're too small, or their size is crazy in a bad way. And so we've got some guys highlighted here who we thought might test well, and so far they've knocked it out of the park. So yesterday it was defensive tackles, edge guys, linebackers, and now we're looking at cornerbacks and safeties performing right now. So let's go ahead and get the guys from yesterday out of the way before we start moving into some of these guys that are really turning heads today.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one, the guy we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks, honestly, is Texas A&M pass rusher Shamar Stewart.
Yes.
And I've been making the quip on the show the last couple of weeks is like, look, if Stewart's there at 14, Chris Ballard's going to have that Green Goblin voice in his head about how he's got to do it. And I know everyone's not going to love it because it's a guy with 4.5 career sacks in 3 seasons.
And they just drafted an edge last year in the first.
But look, this is the perfect. We just talked about Dio Dangbo leaving in free agency. This is their replacement for Dio Dangbo. He came in at 6'5", 267, so a little bit under the weight that he was listed in college. 34-inch arms, which is insane. Ran a 4.59, had a 40-inch vertical and a 10.11 broad. Honestly, what's funny is the expectations were so high from him, like in his testing, that the 4.59 feels underwhelming to a degree.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a one-of-one athlete, like a Trayvon Walker type of athlete, Jadeveon Clowney type of athlete. And some team's going to take that top 10. Some team's going to take that top 15. And if he's there at 14, the Colts just might be that team. So, yeah, we made the joke the last couple of weeks that that's the perfect Ballard guy, especially when you factor in the lack of production. But, yeah, Shamar Stewart, I think that is he tested the way everyone expected, which was superstar level testing.
Yeah, this is just the latest box that he's checked because he also was a standout at the Senior Bowl as well. I believe he was one of those guys that left early because he had already kicked so much tail that didn't need to show up for the rest of the event. So Shamar Stewart passing with flying colors. Jihad Campbell, a very, very interesting option for the Colts. They need some help in the middle of the defense. They need more juice at linebacker. We like Jalen Carlisle and what he could be. Zaire Franklin is at minimum an average starting Mike. But Jihad Campbell he changes things for you instantly. He's violent, explosive. He's got those instincts. He has no fear, just crazy athletic. Like any possible thing that you might want in an off-ball linebacker, he's got it for you.
Yeah, he's very young too, only 20 years old, and testing and moving the way he did, 6'3", 235, ran a 4.52 with a 10.7 broad. That is just bonkers numbers right there. And honestly, we're looking at another player where he might go in the top 10. So we don't even know if the Colts will have a chance at him because he's a freaky tester. He's athletic on film. He's physical on film. I mean, again, he's moving like this at 235 and plays at a crazy high level of physicality. You can play him on the edge, and it's another reason why he fits the Colts because the Colts like to do with Lou Anarumo are going to like to do some bear fronts where they drop the linebacker onto the end of the line. But yeah, Campbell is just a freaky player. And the Colts, I would be happy if the Colts took him at 14. I don't think he's going to be there, but one of the best players in this draft.
Yeah, without question. He's one of the guys I wouldn't really hesitate to turn the card in for. A couple of cornerbacks, they're not necessarily of the same mold, but still a couple guys that fit the Colts. Darian Porter, that's one of your guys for sure. 6'3", 195, over 33-inch arms, ran a 4.3, 36.5-inch vertical, which is good. It's not awesome, but it's pretty good. 10'11" broad. Maxwell Hairston, 5'11", 183. Kind of got that Terrion Arnold size a little bit. 31-inch arms is okay, but 4.28, I think it wound up being 4.29 official. 39.5-inch vertical, 10'9" broad. So these are really explosive athletes. For Hairston, what he maybe lacks in the length, he gets an explosion, and he can get up and get the ball away.
Yeah, I mean, Hairston, this is the guy where you just got to get your popcorn ready and watch that 40 time. Our colleague Destin Adams was the one who told us about his quotes at the interviews or whatever, saying like, got to get ready. Or what was Destin? What was the nickname that Hairston had? The locksmith. So the locksmith, Maxwell Hairston. Destin's right off camera, so I was able to ask him. But Maxwell Hairston, the locksmith, got your popcorn ready to watch that 40 time, ran a 4.28, one of the highest max speeds in 40-yard dash history. It was in top 5 all time since they've been measuring this, only behind like Xavier Worthy and Devin A-Chain. So fantastic athlete. He's got top 50 film as well. Hairston might sneak into that bottom half of round 1. And Darian Porter, it's a guy I've talked about the last couple weeks on this show. I mean, look, he's 25 and he's got 1 year of film on defense, but the 1 year film was pretty good.
Yeah.
And honestly, you give me 6'3", 195 running a 4.3 flat with a 39-inch vert and a 10.9 broad. I don't care if he's never played corner before. I'm still taking him to play corner at that. He could be 50 years old with those measurables and that speed. And I'm taking him in probably round 3. Like, I fall for that type every single time. Big, fast, and strong, explosive. I can make it work. I can make him work, like that. I fully believe in those traits.
You'll bring out the best.
I will bring out the best in him. I can turn this mean boy around. But no, I really think this is a guy, when you look at Lou Anarumo's history of, we want big, fast, physical corners, Porter just kind of fits that. It's just the age. The age is really the one thing, but I'd keep an eye on him in round 3 for the Colts. I think round 3 is a good range for him and the Colts. And again, if Lou has any confidence in his ability as a developer of talent and has any belief in Chris Hewitt's ability to develop talent, I think a guy like Porter could really be their guy in round 3.
Yeah. And another guy who did really well down at the Senior Bowl as well. So those guys who check all, they pass all those tests, do well at the Senior Bowl, do well at the Combine, they measure well. Those guys tend to translate pretty well. And a guy I've been stalling on because I'm waiting to see his 40 score, but he's knocked everything else out of the park. Safety Nick Emenwari from South Carolina. Mind you, this is a safety, 6'3", 220, over 32-inch arms, 43-inch vertical, 11'6" broad jump. I mean, I've got to imagine he's going to run in the 4.3s or low 4.4s or something. So this dude aced the test.
Yeah, let's guess before he runs here. I know, it's gonna be funny is we're recording this early, but we're gonna post it after he runs, so we're gonna look like we cheated if we get it right. But I'm gonna say like 4.34, honestly, is what it's probably gonna end up being. He's testing the way we all expected, which was superstar level tester. And you have to be careful sometimes with guys like him and Porter, where on film they show this athleticism. You don't want to count it twice on their evaluation. So if you had Nick Emenwari as a top 15, top 20 player going into today, he's just proving that he's not worthy of moving up to like top 5 or anything. And same for anyone who like detracted from him. But yeah, this is exactly why he was rated as a first round pick by most people, is this type of athleticism. It's freaky. It's legendary. It's unreal. You see it on film, and now we're seeing it here at the Combine.
Yeah. And for those of you unfamiliar with him, if you're looking for that just very rare blend of the size, length, and athleticism, you're looking at a Jeremy Chin type, the high end, if all goes amazing in his career, Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton, that's
Duggar from the Patriots as well.
Duggar, yeah, that's the kind of prototype you're hoping that he gets to.
Right.
But he's probably gonna be a first round pick. So like if the Colts trade back at all and the first round, I think he's a prime candidate to land there.
You might have to take him at 14.
After what he does here at the field on the Combine, for sure. Let's get to some other guys, though. These guys all performed yesterday for the most part. Carson Schwessinger, the linebacker, really good in coverage. He measured okay. I like a guy who weighs in kind of, 6'2", 242. That's a big dude, but he moves really well out on the open field. Had a good field workout. 39.5-inch vertical as well. Zaw Frazier is another corner out here from UTSA, 6'3", 186, nearly 33-inch arms, 4.36 40. Did really well in his jumps, 36.5-inch vert, 10'6" broad. Landon Jackson was one of the big standouts from yesterday, 6'6", 264. Good field workout, good jumps. Darius Alexander is a guy you could gush about. Another guy, it's a bummer how old he is, but guys that big have no business moving like they do.
Yeah, definitely 4 standout guys there. If Zoff Frazier could learn how to turn his hips a little bit, I'd be more excited. But look, 6'3", 186, 32-inch arms, 4.36. Again, if he's never played corner before in his life, I'm taking him in in somewhere in the draft. So give me those big, fast corners. I'm a big fan of what Frazier's put out there. And yeah, Darius Alexander, really good film, older player. So it's a little bit concerning when you see a guy where it's like his best film came when he was playing against 22-year-olds and 21-year-olds when he's 25. But I do like Darius Alexander a good bit. Indy native too, Indiana native.
Yeah, looking like me against my nephews at Thanksgiving out there.
Maybe a little more athletic though, right? That's what he is.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we have spent all of our mornings down here talking to a bunch of different players, and some of them have really stood out to us. We've really liked what we've heard from them, and we will tell you all about it here in just a moment. All right, man. So we have been covering ground this week. One guy that really stood out to me that is an obvious Colts connection is Malachi Starks. That's a guy they would have to get at 14. That is their top star safety if they go out and get him. Got versatility. He's played everywhere. He was their dime linebacker as a true freshman at times. Deep safety, box, out wide slot. Wherever you want to put the kid, you can find a way to make it work. Very smart, instinctive player, the type of guy Lou Anarumo said that they're going to need. And he really talked the talk up at the podium earlier this week. He was someone I was really impressed with. These UGA defensive backs have a knack for being really intelligent, and they're just really well prepared for the NFL. They have a really high hit rate.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add about Starks, it's not about his interview because you sat in on that one, but people overthink these SEC players who come in at 18 years old and are dominant right away. They think like they have to be that same dominant through all 3 years. And a guy like Starks, he came in at 18 in the SEC and was a baller. The second year, he was an AP All-American at 19. And then, his 20-year-old season wasn't as great in playmaking. But again, this guy's been doing it since he was 18 in the SEC. I'm going to bet on that guy in the NFL. And before I kick it back to you, Jake, Eminwari just ran a 4.4 flat. So that's our unofficial. By the time we post this, the official might be out, but I was a little off with my projection. But 4.40 flat, Jesus.
That's really good. So Starks did also explain what one concern people have about him is a drop off in playmaking in his final year here, his junior year. He said basically the answer to that is he was just playing a different role than he had been asked to play in his first couple of years. One of his teammates, Jalen Walker from Georgia, this is a guy that's a coach's son, and it feels like he keeps a really strong supporting cast around him, very tethered to his family. He keeps the right people around him, very focused on football. He's another super versatile guy. He's a guy with question marks about where do you play him? Is he edge? Is he linebacker? What do you do? And teams have been asking him that as well. And he's like, you know what? I don't want to have a positional home. I want to be that chess piece. And a lot of guys don't embrace that because it can be overwhelming, especially when you get to the NFL. But going from Georgia's defense to an NFL defense, you're going from one of the top defenses in the entire country to an NFL defense. So it's not a crazy leap. And a guy like this, if you're going to bet on someone playing multiple roles, I think he'd be a wise bet.
Yeah, I mean, especially with his size that he came in with, I think the Frankie Louvu comps are really coming through with that there. Yeah. The physicality, just, how he plays, how he can play edge and off ball. Jalen Walker is a good player in this draft.
Yeah, for sure. How about you? Who really stood out to you so far?
Nobody. No, I'm just kidding. Azareye'h Thomas as well. Okay. I know I've been high on him this whole process here, and I really wish he would have run. I'm a little mad at him right now. We're in a little bit of a little bit of a spat right now because of that. But I mean, the size profile is really nice, but also the age as well. Only 20 years old. And one thing that really impressed me with his interview is just he talks like he's a way older than 20. I know at 20, if I got up there, I'd be stuttering and scared and freaked out. If you go back to old Locked On videos with Locked On Commanders back in the day, you would actually hear those things of me sounding like that. But when it comes to him, he was very in control of his press conference. I thought he had a lot of great answers to it and seemed like a really team first guy. So Azareye'h Thomas on the field, I really like his film. I wish his combine was going on, like his testing was going on, but off the field, really impressed with him as well.
Good. Yeah, I'll roll through a few more guys here that I really liked speaking with. So Donovan Ezaraku, this guy seems like a football junkie. He studies the game, really wants to learn about guys like momentum and how to use their body against them, and lots of sciencey, biological stuff. Sports medicine, things beyond my comprehension. But that guy's into it. He goes to Boston College. He's smarter than I am, and he wants to use that to be better as a football player. But no, that guy is a student of the game, and I just really liked what I heard from him. Running back RJ Harvey. A lot of running backs don't want to embrace the non-sexy stuff like pass protection or even special teams. And, if you're a mid-round running back, if you don't want to do that stuff, then see you later to your chances in the NFL. It's not going to happen. And he really wants to do it. And, he wants to deliver hits, and he wants to be really good at pass pro, and he wants to do special teams. So I thought that was really key, because when you're a running back, even rookies, they translate so easily, it seems. You're just a play away. And if coaches already like what you're providing them on special teams, and you already have like a small role in pass protection, like, there you go. You want to run the ball, here's your opportunity to do it. So Jackson Dart, it's another guy who very confident without being like overly cocky about it. He's got an answer for everything you throw at him, it seems. But he's a fiery guy on the field, and I've talked to him at the Senior Bowl and here, and I found different ways to ask him about leadership. And, I just asked him, you're really fiery on the field, fiery guy. You're not going to see a lack of emotion from him. And I was like, how important is that for you to just like get so amped up on the field and set the tone for your teammates? And he's like, oh, that's everything. I want them following my lead. And, I want to set the example that what we're doing right now, like, we're in a big moment, and I want people to follow me. So I'm Jackson Dart is growing on me by the day.
Yeah. What do you think about his transition, though, to the NFL from that offense at Ole Miss? Do you think he thinks that there's a tough transition?
No, I mean, yeah, he kind of scoffs at the fact that it's a non-NFL system. And I was eavesdropping today. I overheard some very smart NFL people that I actually respect talking about that as well. And it's a lot more NFL based than people give it credit for. It just so happens and he's had different offensive coordinators all the time, but it just so happens that offense creates open windows and gets guys wide open. And I mean, NFL teams are going to want to see him throw into tighter spaces, but that's just what they did at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I think he answered that a little bit at the Senior Bowl. It wasn't the same thing. But I mean, he's got a strong arm. I think the velocity is there to get it into tight windows, but they're just going to have to see it before they believe it.
Yeah, I was just messing with Jake there, everybody. But I will say this real quick. I know we're going to do probably full episodes and stuff on this later in the offseason, but Ole Miss's passing game really isn't that different from the NFL anymore, because the NFL has adopted a lot of spread stuff. It really is just their pace of play, that they get off so many plays in a game that's really unrealistic. So that's really what throws them off right there, and makes those wide open windows that are unattainable in the NFL. But yeah, Jackson Dart, I think he's a perfectly fine quarterback prospect. Wouldn't take him day 2, but we'll see. Teddy Buchanan was also a standout to me, really smart linebacker who made the jump from the FCS level to Cal this past year. Had well over 100 tackles, tested really well as well. So these guys really come on my radar, and I just enjoyed speaking to him. Really smart guy. I liked his film study habits from when he was talking with me, and he's a guy who really popped on my radar this week as a result.
Yeah, last guy for me, and I wanted to do this for you, Hoosiers. So IU quarterback Curtis Rourke. Obviously, he played through a torn ACL this season. Really tough situation. Tough kid, though. Like, wow, to do that, number one. But basically going into the season, it was like partially torn, and by the end of the season, the thing was toast. But, they said as long as he was able to get out there and move around a little bit and perform the tasks needed, he wanted to be out there. Now, the thumb was something he couldn't necessarily play through. Like, I think he had to take a game or two off because, I mean, if your thumb is broken as a passer, what can you do? But the kid played through a lot, and, he was part of turning around an IU program that hasn't been relevant in decades.
Yeah.
And, he wanted to be a big part of that, and he, celebrated the fact that, Coach Curt Cignetti is setting something up for the long term, and he just got to be a nice small part of the beginning of it. So
we all love some Curtis Rourke. Hopefully he ends up in Indy in some way or another. He'll at least be here for the local. Well, do they have
They might.
Yeah, he might be for local because they
Maybe,
have
yeah.
Indiana players come as well, right?
Yeah, you get a lot of guys from, Indiana, Illinois, some Ohio guys. Basically, if you've got ties through high school or college to the area, I mean, he'll be eligible for it. He's from Canada, I think, but
Oh,
I mean, he played at IU, so he should be eligible to come to the local pro day if invited.
awesome. Well, we do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Now the season is over. Get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube, or Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you guys will become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.